government in this town is excellent and uses your tax dollars efficiently.
You thought you'd see it coming. The moment Bitcoin is what they fear it is. A way to read it.
What an astounding revolution. Bitcoin represents.
Jeffery, what do you want to do tonight?
Same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
The Pinky and the Brain. Yes, Pinky and the Brain. One is a genius, the other's insane. They're laboratory mice. Their genes have been sliced. They're Pinky and the Brain.
All right, welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Crypto Show. We're coming to you live on Facebook anyway, on the last official day anyway, in Acapulco, in the sunny climes of Acapulco, Mexico. And today is the Crypto Day, and hopefully if you're not here,
the only important day.
Yeah. Why does everyone say that?
No.
Literally, I've had other people say that too that I've run into. I don't think so. Well, they're all important.
I'm kidding.
You better be kidding.
You know, it seemed like almost every other talk was about crypto in some way or form. There was almost nothing that was talked about that didn't have some link to crypto in it.
That is true from my experience. That's pretty funny. Well, and it makes sense. There's a lot of convergence between the two, between anarchism, voluntarism, and crypto. So no surprise there. Well, we've got a guest that I won't mention here in a moment. We've got some other sit-in guests who will probably be actual guests. Many of whom will probably be actual guests here in a little bit. We've got the Zaselberg brothers, Eckhart and Joel, who are big fans of the show, and really nice guys, come all the way from Germany just to be on the Crypto Show. Well, or to be at an Acapulco, either way. We've got Simon Dixon from Bank to the Future. Simon's been on the show many times, and he was a speaker. Yeah, were you a speaker yesterday or was it today?
The opening today.
The opening today, that's right. Okay, there you go. And we've also got Chris from Cryptoverse sitting in with us, and Jason from Horde, Jason Davis, and we're going to talk to him probably later on today as well. And we've got a lovely lady with us too who came with Chris. I don't know her name, but she's here, so we'll just – what's that? Emma? Emma is sitting with us too. Thanks, Emma. And, of course, let's get to our guest. He's been on the show before. It's been a while. But I'm really excited to have him back. It's none other than Jeffery Tucker.
It's good to be here. Why has it been so long since I've been on? There must be some reason.
Jeffrey, I'd like to ask you that same question.
No, wait.
Because you wouldn't take my call.
No,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You know, it's true that email comes up. But I mean, I'm not sure. I think it's been too long since I've been invited. Am I wrong about that? I mean, I don't want this to be a pity party here, but, you know.
No. I mean,
I'm glad to be here anyway.
I'm kind of flattered that you're, like, wondering why we haven't invited you back.
I've said
See, I thought we were waiting on you calling us.
I lie in bed at night and I think, whatever happened to my friendship with the Crypto Show? Do I not have any new thoughts? I mean, it's just, you know.
Oh my God, Jeffrey! I just didn't know. Oh, I'm touched. Well, we're gonna have you back on again soon, I promise.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad for this reapproachment.
Well, excellent. Same here.
Yes.
Okay. And by the way, Robert Lindsay Nathan is also sitting with us. But of course, Jeffery Tucker, he needs no introduction. Anarchist extraordinaire. If you've been to the Mises Institute in previous years, if you've read Bourbon for Breakfast, if you just know any great thinker, writer, and speaker in the libertarian space, you know Jeffery Tucker.
Oh, well, that's sweet. That's sweet of you to say. You know, I have a new book out that came out late last year called Right Wing Collectivism. I think it's my best book. I mean, it's actually dark and dreary and dreadful. It's just
so unlike you, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I know. And I'm so glad to be done with it. Right, I'm glad to be happy again. But it's about the history of right Hegelianism in the 19th century and why and how it came to overthrow liberalism and create the total state in the 20th century. I mean,
that sounds fascinating.
Yeah, well, and I had to read all these dreadful books, you know, by these ghastly authors, and I read, you know, like 100 or more, you know, just to get through it. It was a miserable time in my life, and it's funny how the books like that are. You know, the idea is you write a book and then you go around speaking about it and write a bunch of spin-off articles on it, do a bunch of interviews on it. But by the time the book came out, I just didn't want to think about it anymore.
Wow, that bad.
Yeah.
Just all the negative energy flowing through you. You finally got it out. Why revisit it?
Really
right?
true. And I just thought, what's next? What's next? So now I've got all these new projects I'm really excited about, and of course, they're all about crypto.
Yeah, and that's what we're here to talk to you about.
Yeah.
And I ran into you yesterday, which was very fortuitous, and always happy to occasionally run into you at these conferences. And you were telling me about this new project. And I want you to start with the inspiration for it. If I recall correctly, it was Trump. No, I'm just kidding.
No, what happened is I got an invitation to speak in Tel Aviv, and I've always wanted to go to Tel Aviv. And some people call it the Holy Land, and everybody knows what you're supposed to do when you go to Israel. You go to the historical sites and slog through, stand in lines with tourists and touch first class relics and that sort of thing. But I thought, well, I'll do all that. But first, I'm going to look up Bitcoin Tel Aviv and see what's going on. Sure enough, there's a Tel Aviv Bitcoin embassy. Right across from the stock exchange. I thought, no, there's where my home is. These are my people. So I just rushed over there and walked in. It was just the coolest scene, So there's, you get offered a beer, and then you send some shekels for Bitcoin, and then you talk to cool people, and everybody's interested in you, and you're interested in them. You share ideas, and you just feel at home, And so sure enough, I spent 3 days there.
Are you kidding?
I did. I couldn't leave. And
now 3 days actually just extra in Tel Aviv, or actually at the Bitcoin embassy?
At the embassy. I mean,
they had like rooms to stay in, or what?
Well, it was actually relatively small. If you know Tel Aviv, they have extreme restrictions on buildings, so you can't make new real estate.
They were across from the stock exchange. That's pretty impressive.
Exchange, and nothing in particular goes on. It's just conversations and people hanging out, and different personalities mixing, and people coming in off the street buying Bitcoin all the time. And I don't know, there's electricity, in the room. It's just like this bubbling with ideas, and there's a sense of the future and intelligence and real community. People from all over the world just coming to this place, and I had this profound sense. It's funny because people associate Israel with conflict. But at the Bitcoin embassy, you don't get conflict. You get like a genuine community and a real sharing. And I realized that day, oh my God, is it actually possible that crypto is the thing that will finally do for the world what all the best philosophers have always dreamed of? Find the thing that connects us. In crypto there is no Jew, Greek, man, woman. We're all one in technology. I mean,
like I told you yesterday, I think you found the new religion, Jeffery.
Maybe St. Paul just, was forecasting what, Satoshi. I don't know, but anyway.
Predicted in this.
Right. So anyway, I got back to Atlanta, and Atlanta is a very special space, and in many ways, kind of like Israel, but in a very different context. But we have 150 years of calamity, and the scars are all over the city. You can see it in the 3 separate skylines because people were fleeing each other, because of war, because of Jim Crow, because of I don't know, eugenics and regulation and zoning and drafts and urban planning and busing and forced segregation, forced integration. There's been a history of horror, the welfare state and everything. And Atlanta is a real community of survivors, demographically very diverse. But one of the things that you notice in Atlanta is that here again, crypto really brings people together very naturally and organically. It's not like you have to reach out to people. You don't have to have, affected meetups to bring the races together and any of that nonsense. I mean, Bitcoin just loves everyone. And people know it. And so I went out to an ATM soon after I got to Atlanta because I just wanted because I just wanted to hang around crypto people. We have 2 big meetups, but just one night I had this hunger to be around crypto people, so I just went to a convenience store. There's a long line of people standing in the line.
You're kidding?
No, we've got 40 ATMs, Bitcoin ATMs in Atlanta. And and there's a long wait at all of them.
Austin needs to catch up.
No, it's just so amazing. And
Vegas
so I'm just standing there
way.
talking to some of the people, which how should I say? There's not people you would normally meet in my circles, but it was just joyful, just to meet people from all walks of life. Some of them with uncertain sources of income. How should I say? But back page. Yeah, but everybody has human rights, and they all are aspiring to live lives of dignity, and Bitcoin has given that to these people, not the banks, not the government, but this little machine distributing math.
Pretty incredible, unexpected.
And we all knew each other. We all understood each other. We all felt as if we were together, part of the future, and it was just a glorious feeling. That was like at 11 p.m. one night, and I just kept thinking about it over the next couple of days, and then just one night it occurred to me, what are we doing? We need an Atlanta Bitcoin embassy, built on the model of Tel Aviv, so we can have a place to hang out, meet people, come together, talk, give training, share ideas, just a place for people to go. And like when I went to Tel Aviv, I wanted to know where are my friends, and my friends aren't tourists hanging around at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. My friends were at the Bitcoin embassy. So I want
real quick, how many people were there that you saw?
In and out. It was just kind of constant foot traffic, in and out. But a
lot of foreigners, you said.
Oh yeah. And then there's kind of it seemed like a core of like 8 people, but it's a 24/7 office. I mean,
cool.
Almost entirely built of volunteers because the passion in the space. We love to hang around each other and love to do things for the cause, and we're giving people and believing people of faith and hope, and so it's very easy to fill up an embassy. So I just got busy on it, and it happened so fast. So I came here last Tuesday. I opened up the embassy the day before I left.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and built the website, built the space, signed the lease. It's in a WeWork.
So we were the shared office space thing,
which is another idea I got from Tel Aviv because there's a WeWork in Tel Aviv, and I hung out there a lot for different purposes, and so I just kind of smashed the two together. It's got a co-working space with the Bitcoin Embassy, and they've welcomed us. I've got it filled with furniture now and desks, and people are welcome to come, and I'm going to get a Dash ATM, a Bitcoin Cash ATM, and a Bitcoin ATM in there. And awesome. we're just going to build this thing and turn it into a real community. There's enough space for meetups and how big
when would you like that delivered?
Yeah. ASAP. I mean, I want this thing like right away. And already, I mean, the phones are ringing off the hook, and I'm being messaged all the time. So we're using all the technology to get the word out. It all just came. Sometimes you have an idea and you just know it's the right thing. And I've always wanted to be the founder of something that was instantaneously compelling. Just from the name alone.
Right.
And Atlanta Bitcoin Embassy is that. And 3 parts. We all know that Bitcoin is the most marketable name in our space, right? So we're not just about Bitcoin, but we're about all cryptos. But Bitcoin means something. It always probably will. It's like electricity or railroads or fire.
Fundamental things of nature.
Yeah.
I like that.
And Atlanta signals to people something too, like a city that's too busy to hate, a city that's risen from the ashes 3 or 4 times, a troubled community that is tremendously wealthy. Actually, we have the largest per capita, wealthiest unbanked population in the world.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's a very, very prosperous community.
And so, who are these prosperous unbanked? Like, what do they do? Or, well, fair enough. I think I get the
silence.
Enough said. Let's just leave it at that.
No, this is the land of trap houses and, the cultural capital of the world, many people call it. And wow, I could tell you stories about Atlanta.
I can tell you all about the airport.
None of which you'll read in the news. But anyway, let's just talk about the third word, embassy. Now, embassies are interesting because they're sort of sovereign territories in the middle of a nation state. There, the laws of the nation do not apply. So they're sanctuaries. They've always served, if you get in trouble, you go to the embassy. The embassy will shield you. You can't, the nation state can't touch you in the embassy. So there's a reason for that term. I think it's compelling and interesting. Of course, we can't actually be a real embassy, but the idea of an embassy, we can be that.
You should hire someone from the bank to be a guard and walk around on the outside. We had to go to the embassy in London to get our passports straightened out, and I noticed there were local, Londonites there working.
Yeah, right.
And I was yelling at them, "They took our jobs!"
But I love this idea that you go to the embassy to solve your problems, and it's a place of safety and security that where the laws of the geographic state that's surrounded do not pertain to it. Well,
let me ask you this real quick. Maybe it's not possible to make an actual embassy there, but I'm just curious. Going back to my joke about starting a religion, is there any way to like start an official Bitcoin religion based in the embassy and get like
they already have one
religious refuge for people who are?
They have the
members
Church of Blurk.
Of what?
Church of Blurk.
Is that a real thing?
Yes.
It's like a Bitcoin church.
Yes.
Well, there could be more than one Bitcoin church.
Well, my idea is that I'm going to bring. I mean, the economic model is pretty simple. Sponsorships. I just can't believe it. Everybody's like, shut up and take my sponsorship, and it's just been glorious.
Already?
For me. Yeah, yeah.
You just opened it on Monday.
Yeah, oh yeah, no. I mean, I already had full funding lined up even before I opened the doors. It was just magnificent. And
Did
then
you get some bow tie sponsorships?
that's what we need. And then we have a wallet recovery service. It's a guy who brute forces passwords for people, and it's pretty simple. I'm just asking that people that use that gain a referral through the embassy services, just give back to the embassy, and that becomes another source of revenue. And a lot of people need teaching and training, and we have a lot of teachers in our realm who want to share the knowledge, but of course they have to allocate their time. So these are paid services, and so the embassy is going to be referring people to these individuals, and they'll use our offices for consultancy and that sort of thing, and then give back to the embassy, and I think through all these revenue streams we actually have a sustainable model. And you know what my real hope is? Because, by the way, there are embassies in Helsinki, and we've got the Parallel Polis in Prague and Kiev. There's a Bitcoin embassy.
Wow.
And there used to be one in New York, but it opened too soon.
I think Jonathan Mohan probably ruined it.
Yeah,
that's him. It's his
there
fault.
he is.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And okay. So you need to reopen it. But what if every large city in the country, has a Bitcoin embassy? Like a viable institution where you can really go. Wouldn't that just be fantastic? You show up in Denver and you're a crypto person. By which I mean you have a little bit. You're a little bit of an owner, and you can't stop thinking about it. It happens to so many people. It happens to millions of people. So then you go to Denver you go to a business trip or something. You want a place to hang out. You're going to go to a bar? Who cares? You're going to go to the embassy. So what
you
if
already have a kinship with those people?
Exactly.
So it's perfect.
So what if you could travel, all over the country, and you can go to, the Kalamazoo embassy, Bitcoin embassy, and just all over the country.
The one in Austin.
There's no limits. Yeah. What, do you have one in Austin?
It'll be opening shortly on 51st Street. Exactly.
No.
It used to be called Brave New Books, but it's going to be reopened under something. Cool.
You want to call it the embassy? I think it should. I mean, and the idea is not to create a franchise, with trademark and all that nonsense. So just forget it. I want this to be completely open source, so that anyone can start an embassy in his town, and it can be any shape or size. The point is not the real estate or the quality of the sofas. I mean, God knows Tel Aviv, that place is a mess. We love it, though. We love it. The point is to have an ingathering of minds and the creativity and the passion. Just a physical location where people can gather and share and help build the future. A beautiful future that's prosperous and peaceful. We need that kind of hope in our world, and embassies can illustrate that. They can embody all the hopes of humanity.
I need to declare my motorhome an embassy. Wherever I go.
Traveling embassy.
Yeah, traveling embassy. That's beautiful.
Jump on.
Yeah.
So go back to the word embassy, right? This is not a question. This is a comment. I don't know what value it has, but where my mind went then was, so these are like physical representations of Bitcoin's territory, if you like.
Yes.
Because like the British embassy or the Israeli embassy or whatever,
right.
That's the place you go when you're away from your homeland.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
So if we're doing that in the Bitcoin embassies, where the homeland is virtual, right? So it almost needs the embassies to have a physical territory, right?
Well, that's kind of the idea of BitNation.
Right.
Yeah.
I suppose eventually the embassies will expand to the point where it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? So you're never off the homeland.
Don't you think it's a brilliant idea? I think it's brilliant.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have like a profound sense of holy, it wasn't my idea. It was my idea to bring the Tel Aviv embassy to Atlanta, which was
we do need to make
idea.
sure that the guns that guard it are Cody Wilson's, Ghost Gunners.
Well, I'll tell you, just as long as we're sort of getting into the details, I did have a little bit of concern about security. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Tel Aviv is one of the strangely safest places in the world. Like, you can't believe it. There's virtually zero crime. I mean, I only add the word virtually because I think it's probably not possible to say anywhere it's completely crime-free. But this is a place where you drive around your motor scooter and you park it on the sidewalk and you come back 3 days later, and even though you never locked it, it's still sitting right there. I mean, you could leave your wallet on your hood of your car and nobody will touch it. I mean, it's that
Is
absurd.
it the culture? Is it stiff penalties for crime, or what is it?
I don't really know. It's just an extreme mega high trust society of some sort.
That's why it stands out, right?
Yeah.
Some strange
I
magic
don't.
to it.
I mean, I've never felt safer anywhere. I mean, it's so funny. You go to Tel Aviv and people are like, be careful. Wait a minute, I live in Atlanta. What are you talking about? But so in Atlanta, at the Tel Aviv embassy, it was really foot traffic off the street. But given, there's a lot, I think, sort of justified security concern in our community these days. And I think given that, I decided to pull back from that model of just getting a street level property. So we have the security guaranteed by the WeWork. I just didn't want to, attract people that were just up to no good, So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So you have to give your identification and be permitted in. But it is a kind of come one, come all office space. And I aspire to be 24/7. And we can be, but for now, since we're just starting off, I'm just doing 8-hour days.
You got to start small and expand, obviously. While you get more sponsorships, build the services.
And in fact, I had the opportunity when the idea first occurred to me to start big, and I declined to do that. I decided I would just let's just get a minimum viable product here and grow this organically, and let the community really build its own thing. I'm planning a launch, I think, in April, and just last night I was just thinking about this, like, wouldn't it just be so awesome if we could get a couple of trap houses in town to sponsor the launch and perform at them? I mean, wow. Do you know what I mean by trap house?
No, what is that?
Yeah.
Sounds scary, but I don't know.
No, they're very high prestige institutions.
Interesting.
Yeah. You won't find them on Google Maps, though.
Interesting. Okay. Pretty secretive there.
No, they're wonderful institutions and great sources of prosperity and prestige in town, and really cultural centers. But I think, this is what's so great.
Are they
to me
on
about this.
Craigslist?
I don't feel like I'm going to have to do any promotion of this thing. It's just so automatically compelling. As I say, people from all walks of life, regardless of race or language or anything else, people just love Bitcoin, and there's a sense of which it's because they know Bitcoin loves them. It's access to wealth. It represents human dignity and prosperity and opportunity and no barriers to entry. Thank God.
Right.
For the last 100 years, that's all we've done is construct barriers to people and their freedom and their lives, and they're everywhere. And it's just glorious. At one magical moment, in 2009, the technology they entered into the world that offers the hope of wiping it all out and inviting everybody in a truly democratic way.
The way I look at it too. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Jeffrey, on that point, right? Because Bitcoin can't see you, it can't judge you, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I reiterate this point all the time, which is I've got this on Andreas Antonopoulos. He says Bitcoin doesn't recognize personhood, doesn't care gender, color, can't see you, can't judge you, doesn't care.
Yeah.
It could be AI, a robot, person, animal, doesn't matter. If you've got a Bitcoin wallet and a private key, you're good to go.
I think there is some AI actually earning
Right, cool.
Ethereum right now.
Exactly.
From what I hear. What
it
her
is.
name is.
And it's interesting because for so long we've tried to create political institutions to achieve this, but they never do. In fact, they do the exact opposite. They divide people from each other. And and you look. I'm an American, and I'm sorry, our political culture is utterly miserable. It's like, how many ways can you slice and dice the population and pit people against each other?
So true.
And it's happening all the it seems like every 30 days there's a new battleground and of
America's
hate.
number one at that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we're so good at it. It's just miserable and it's oppressive. And then Bitcoin comes along and says, this is all nonsense. Here's a completely different model. Equal access to everybody, meritocracy, universal love. and it's working for our community. I mean, it's just become so interesting to me because, you know, you take an Uber or a Lyft in Atlanta, and it's become like clockwork. You know, you get in the car and say, hey, what do you do? You know, all you have to do is say the magic word Bitcoin, and whoa, the whole car comes alive. Wow. What do you think? What do you think about this Cardano coin? You know, what are you interested in Monero? You know, what exchange you like? You know, and it's like
it takes people who are kind of like zombies and makes them alive again.
So the whole ride becomes interesting. This happens every single time.
It's this process of making the world kind of three-dimensional, right? Because the virtual world is like in the third dimension, if you know what I mean. Because we've all been flat on the ground, as it were, and you can put barriers there, walls, fences, and so on. And like some of the speakers are talking about, as we get into the space age, that's going, you know, upwards beyond jurisdiction. The internet is beyond jurisdiction.
It's a migration, up.
Jurisdiction, and now the people are going to be on jurisdiction as well. So.
Yeah. Well, we've been doing this now for more than 20 years. Just this mass migration out of the physical world into the digital realm, and it just gets better and better. Even as the physical world ruled by the nation state and politics gets worse and worse and worse, and these two realities are confronting all of us every single day.
Well, yeah, and because it's peer to peer and virtual, it connects us all over the world. We can be one sort of brotherhood or people or whatever without having to be in the same geographic area, and really in many cases circumventing the state or making the state irrelevant through the use of Bitcoin.
And we used to you open the show and you talk about come to these Liberty conferences, and more they're about crypto. I think what it's the same thing as saying that you come to these conferences that used to be political, and we're gradually discovering that we want to be post-political. Actually, we want to leave politics.
It's more philosophical than political these days. Yeah.
Or Carl Schmitt wrote a book in 1944. He said the liberals of the 18th century were miserable people because they imagined a world without politics. They thought that you could just create freedom and human rights for everybody, and then they would just like find value in each other and trade and get more prosperous, and that's it. He said that sounds like the worst nightmare I can ever imagine. A world without politics. What we really need is a world of politics where there's friends and there's enemies and there's bloodshed and there's hate and there's drama and there's killing and there's cowardice and courage, and he was a Nazi for a reason. He was a freaking Nazi. But he's right in the sense that we do imagine a world without politics, and his nightmare is my dream. I want to leave that world behind. I've worked in the liberty space my whole life, and only very recently did I fully realize what it means. We want to live in a world without politics, a post-political world where every human being has access and enjoys rights and dignity, regardless of where we're born, where there's geography, life station, identity.
It's a beautiful vision, and it's closer and closer to potentially being realized with...
Isn't it so funny? Bitcoin is born, and we thought maybe it's money. But all these years later, we're realizing it's much more than that. It's harmony for the world.
Consensus.
Yeah, it's consensus. It's peace.
Agreement.
And to me, too, because it makes trustless transactions, I feel like when you can take the trust out of money, or you know what I mean, when you don't have to worry about trust in money, you can foster trust amongst people in other ways. You know what I mean?
So interesting. Somebody needs to really write the dreamy philosophical treatise on this topic. Maybe that's my next project. I don't know.
What's great is, Jeffrey, you've already done so much for the ideas of liberty and liberty movements, but with this embassy, I think it's going to really take off and spread all over the country.
I'm feeling very good about it. I really am feeling very good about it. As a business, but more than that, as like a service to the community. It makes me happy to think that. And it came about the right way. All of us, you think about starting businesses and things, but really we shouldn't be thinking about starting businesses. We should think about pursuing our passions, and this is my passion. So it just fell into place so easily, and it all seems so inevitable.
Well, it's inevitable to me too, because not just because of your involvement in Liberty, but you were a really early advocate of Bitcoin itself.
I was, I was.
mean, even outside the Liberty space. I mean, you.
No. It was early 2013. I had to set away. All my theories said Bitcoin couldn't exist, and I finally decided to set aside my theories and decide to let Bitcoin teach me. And that was the beginning of a lot of things for me. And I wrote very early on, and the ceiling fell in on me, and my colleagues said I was an idiot, and oh, you're part of a pump and dump, and I've lived through all this stuff, for years now. But now I feel like everything's really coming together for me in my professional life as a result of this. So I have a new hedge fund. I've got the Atlanta Bitcoin Embassy, and I'm very thrilled to have a new gig at the American Institute for Economic Research, which was founded in 1933. Because in 1933, FDR, actually, it was an amazing thing. He became president, and he shut the banks. So he said to you, "Oh, you think you have property in the bank? You can't get to it. You can't. It's not allowed." And then when they reopened, he issued 2 new edicts. One was, if you own gold, you have to turn it in. You can't own gold. I mean, that used to be money. You can't own it anymore. You're not allowed to.
And not just money; it's a rock. Otherwise,
it's a rock.
Like you can't own something out of nature.
And the criminal penalty is $10,000. Which is like, I don't know what that is in today's terms.
You still can't own property.
I know, property taxes, exactly.
And then he devalued the dollar from 1/20th an ounce to 1/35th an ounce. And the guy who founded my institute, his name was E.C. Harwood. He said, this isn't working for me. If you can't control your wealth, if you can't have security and ownership, you're not free.
Wasn't the worst thing about that, though, that the citizens had to sell it back at a fixed price?
A fixed price.
So it wasn't even a free market thing.
It wasn't.
Yeah, it was devalued by 40%.
It was disgusting, right?
Yeah.
It was interesting because it didn't actually work for FDR. What the American people, then he tried to start an inflation, but it didn't work because everybody said, you know what? Screw the banks. I'm putting my money in my mattress. And that it went on for 15 years until after World War II, when people dug out their money and then they reinvested and built a beautiful prosperity in the 1950s. Because the hodlers saved America in the 1930s and 40s. So anyway, so it's fun for me to now, I'm the editorial director at AIER in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, to kind of we're bringing this institution that's founded to defend the right to own into the crypto age. And so we write every day about blockchain technology and
that's
crypto.
awesome.
Yeah,
so you're living the dream, Jeffrey.
I know it's.
Did you say you had a hedge fund too?
Yeah, I do have a hedge fund, Vellum Capital.
Tell us about that. When did you start it, and what?
Well, I don't know how much you know about how it is to start a hedge fund, but the idea came to me last August because I was in Grand Rapids and we were sitting around dinner, and like all of us, we're all talking about various assets and tokens and things. And of all things, a priest said to me, "Wouldn't it be wonderful if there was some service that could cobble together a really nice, well-managed, secure portfolio of all these various assets and offer them to high net worth individuals who don't understand this stuff and they're afraid of wallets, they're afraid of cold storage and things, something like a hedge fund." And then he pushed me to do it, and he was kicking me, this is your job, this is your vocation, this is your calling, go for it. So we started the paperwork, and for God's sake, doing the paperwork, start a hedge fund is just, I feel like I've signed, 150,000 pages worth of documents to get this thing going, but it's finally off the ground. So
congratulations!
Yeah, thank you. So it's yet another thing. So that's job number 5.
And do you have you got many investors yet, or?
Well, it's not possible for me to publicly talk about the details of it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But I think many people had this idea of a crypto hedge fund basically at the same time. It's a simultaneous invention. So I think when I first started it, I think there were maybe 6, and now there's something like 60 already.
Wow.
So but it really, and this is not really for crypto people. This is for old family foundations that are tired of being robbed by conventional financial markets, earning 7, 8, 9%, they're wondering what the heck they're doing. It's very difficult for these old family foundations that are protecting a lot of money to look at the kind of returns that are being offered in the crypto space and stay out of it. So that's the purpose of my fund, is to provide services to these foundations.
Well, that's excellent.
Yeah.
You're just a man of many talents.
Well, I don't know about talents. Busy with a lot of crazy ideas, maybe.
Well, it's usually the craziest ideas that make the best ideas. So.
But listen, I'm as we were talking about the embassy. So you're sitting here. When you come to Atlanta, what's the first thing you're going to do?
What do you think?
Right.
And actually, along those lines, I just want to throw out another quick idea. Bitcoin Embassy in Atlanta, maybe a mini embassy in the airport. If people are just flying through and they can't stay long enough to go to the actual embassy, what do you think?
Yeah, a little small stand right there next to sunglasses.
Something like that.
Mini embassy.
That's really, it can grow from there.
Can we get our passport stamp there?
Yeah, that would be awesome. One of those old
our Liberland passports.
Free society, whatever.
But I'm going to the Bitcoin Embassy, and in fact, I told you yesterday, I'm going to Atlanta in June or July to visit my cousin.
Are you really? Okay,
yeah,
good.
And so I'm really excited, Jeffrey, to stop by and do that. And I'm going to drag her and her husband,
absolutely,
and my mother and my other cousin who are coming with me to that Bitcoin Embassy. And if they're kicking and screaming, well, all the better, because it's going to give me that much more pleasure when I. Take them through that door.
Real quick,
brothers and sisters.
We mentioned a Bitcoin ATM earlier.
Yeah.
Bill, he said he needs a Bitcoin ATM at his embassy in Atlanta.
So please. Oh, please. Yeah, please.
And that's Bill Klein, everybody.
Yes. My dream is to just have a long line of ATMs, on one side of the wall, just
like an arcade. Kind of.
Yeah.
I like that. Here's a dash Bitcoin. I like that.
Trading them in real time.
But make like a game out of it somehow with like a big screen, and you have to like pass the first level just to send the Bitcoin or something. That would be kind of awesome.
One of the funny things that's happened at WeWorks around the country is that in my building, it turns out we have 2 miners. Mining rigs in the building, and the thing is that they don't charge for electricity. That comes with the rent. And I don't know how long this model is going to last. Actually, given it's like the mining rooms are 85 degrees. And you walk in, it's all this heat.
It's already sweltering hot in Atlanta already.
Yeah.
Right?
But have you experienced this too? Like over the last several years, you've been concerned about telling people what it is you do because they think, oh, that sounds a little shady. So I walked into the WeWork and I was a little concerned. They said, "Well, who are you?" And I named I have an holding LLC that doesn't have Bitcoin in the name or anything like that. And I was kind of beating around the bush about exactly what we were doing there. And they were a little puzzled and like, "Well, what exactly is this thing?" And so finally I said, "Well, look, it's a Bitcoin embassy." And they were like, "Oh, really? That sounds fantastic. How do we get it?" They gave us a discount. They're all excited. Oh, our members will love that. This is a real credit to this institution. So it's gone from being sort of the sketchy thing that people were suspicious of to now being sort of a prestige thing.
Right.
At least in Atlanta, that was my experience.
No, nowadays it seems like Bitcoin opens doors, even with people who are only vaguely familiar with it, because it went from, like you said, being sketchy, like associated with illicit things, to being associated with just very wonderful things.
Yeah, and that's all happened in the last, I don't know, about 6 months, 12 months, something like that.
The media war.
Yeah,
it's true. Seems like it.
Yeah, the mind space.
Yeah.
So everybody's really fired up within my own WeWork, about the fact we're there. I mean, they consider it like a credit to the institution that we've opened up offices. We went ahead and went all in, got a big 14-person office, a very large space, actually.
Wow, that's pretty big.
Yeah. And we've got a mini fridge, filled with.
Gotta have that mini fridge.
Yeah, well, the mini fridge is to hold Dilly, Atlanta's favorite cheap beer, Nice. And we have a principle that we provide free Bud Light, and if you want to upgrade from that, then it's got to be at your own expense.
Why would you want to upgrade from that? Is my question.
I'm with you on that, right?
You need and also you need like Bitcoin vending machines. Vending machines that take Bitcoin for your snacks and your drinks.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned to you yesterday, I think, are you considering even since it is like a WeWork space or whatever, 14 people, pretty big, are you considering maybe doing incubator stuff too, like blockchain incubator?
I think my idea here is to let the reality unfold as it happens, and not plan too far in advance and just let it be organic.
Yeah, cool. See what comes your way.
The other thing is that there's a lot of people in Atlanta, I guess like in any big city, who are sort of digital nomads, and they're sort of working alone, out of their houses, their apartments, and things, and they need a place to go. To work around people, so they can feel that inspiration, the vibe of busyness and that sort of thing. So the offices are really there for people who are commuting, digital commuters in a way, to come and just hang out with their laptops and have a place to talk and colleagues and friends, right?
Right, because there's probably say a lot of coders who are just sitting in their apartments all day coding and
they want to have a place to go.
They feel claustrophobic and they can get cabin fever, and they're like, I need people.
Yeah, and they could go to the Starbucks, but it's always uncomfortable, It's like, I don't know who to talk to, really, or something. But the Bitcoin Embassy, you're going to be around friends, for sure. And so you go there to meet people. At least that's the idea.
Or undercover agents.
right. But if you want a permanent desk there, then we have to talk different terms. But to come and go, I think it's something I hope to be able to offer for free.
Yeah. This is a marvelous idea.
Yeah,
I'm so excited, Jeffrey.
I know, right? Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, like 100 years from now, you're going to be in the history books as
the man who stole an idea from Tel Aviv.
Well, hopefully they skip over that part. No, I'm just kidding. No, but as a man who spread Bitcoin embassies around the world, and not just physical Bitcoin embassies, Jeffrey, but the man who spread the Bitcoin embassy up here.
That's right. It's funny. There is this old American legend of Johnny Appleseed. That story, right? He went around planting apple seeds all over. So we should do the same thing with embassies. That's maybe in 20 years there'll be an embassy in every.
I like this Johnny Embassy or hold on. Jeffrey Embassy or something. We'll work on the legend name.
Jeffrey Bitcoin.
Yeah. They have an Appleseed organization for firearms.
For what?
For introducing children to firearms.
Oh, that's interesting. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we could blend those things.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me come and brag about this idea and to advertise it and offer an invitation to everybody who comes to Atlanta to come be with friends and to experience what it's like to be around people who have hope for the future.
We'll have to get a hold of you and see how we create more embassies that are connected to the same one.
Absolutely. And again, I can't wait to be there in June or July, and maybe we'll do a remote broadcast or something.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
That would just be amazing.
We do it everywhere.
Please
Absolutely.
do. Broadcast from the Atlanta Bitcoin Embassy. What an honor that would be. Thank you.
Well, Jeffrey, it's been an honor. It's always an honor just being in your presence and talking to you. It's always an honor to have you on the show. And honestly, it's just an honor that you say you're bragging, but you're really just doing everyone a service by talking about spreading the idea, planting the seed, as it were, for other people to start other Bitcoin embassies throughout the country and the world.
That's the goal, the hope. I think a good idea just moves and spreads on its own. And,
that's true.
It doesn't require marketing or belligerence or closing the sale and all that nonsense. If it's a brilliant idea, then it's gonna work.
Is there an address in Atlanta?
An address, 1738 Peachtree. It's right in Upper Midtown, which I did that for a reason. I didn't want it to be out in suburbs. I wanted to be really in the heart of Midtown.
Just a question on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 1738 Peachtree. Parking can be a little tricky, which is my only regret, but so it might be good to Uber or Lyft there. But for now, we're open, I guess, 9 to 5 weekdays. And then there's usually somebody around on weekends. So you can always arrange an appointment, which you can do so through our website, atlbitcoinembassy.org.
atlbitcoinembassy.org.
Yeah.
Check it out, people.
Yeah.
And I still don't fully understand the whole trap house thing, but this is a real trap house because you're going to get trapped there because you're going to be so excited once you get there. You're never going to leave.
There is so much to say about the trap house, and none of which I will.
Fair enough. At least this one, you know where it is too.
Yeah, that's right.
Because we got the address. All right. Well, Jeffrey Tucker, again, always a pleasure. I'm super excited about this idea. I think anyone who hears it is going to be super excited.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to go visit.
Thank you, sir. Look forward to seeing you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, guys, we will see you next time.
Wait. Well,
actually, let's just transition into Simon Dixon. Simon, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah, just listening to all the exciting energy around here. I gave the opening talk, and I said it was 2011 when I gave my first talk in Bitcoin at that first conference in Prague. And over the years, we've seen the audience change significantly.
In what way?
I mean, this year particularly, you had every single person in the world, I think, has heard the name Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I don't think there's many people that, they'll have a perception about it. They'll think it's a whatever.
They may
but
not
they've
even
they've
understand it at all, but they've heard Bitcoin.
Yeah, but 2017, pretty much anyone you spoke to in the world, wherever I went, and I probably went to 50 different countries last year, wherever you go, at whatever level, someone had heard of Bitcoin.
It was on the Big Bang Theory television series here in the States last year,
yeah,
which was big. I imagine a lot of people found out about it even just through that.
Somebody was telling me that it was on Ellen DeGeneres here recently.
Oh, really? Wow.
So, like Simon, so we've step one, brand awareness, right?
Yeah.
We've got it.
Yeah. So, I mean, last year, speculation is a huge part of our industry. The entire financial world, Wall Street joined. Fund managers all around the world need an uncorrelated asset. They see it as an asset class. Other people see it as a currency. Others see it as technology. Others see it as protocols. Some people see it as stocks, investing in these ICOs. The entire world joined and participated. So, what I saw today at this conference was, in that original conference in 2011, there was like 40 people, 20 computer scientists and 20 anarchists, I'd say. And I was giving the talk on the difference between Bitcoin and banking. Today, I really saw a return to what I think created Bitcoin. The audience, although maybe none of them, or some of them were there in those 2011, maybe none of them were there. But what I saw and what I felt was the ethos and community of what created Bitcoin. And that's what I really felt in the energy. And it reminded me, because I have to talk to big fund managers, hedge fund, things like that. And my least favorite talk is when bankers are in the audience. I try to avoid them as much as I can. But you end up there, Bitcoin's for everyone, bankers, fund managers, the person on the street, whoever. But today I really saw a return to, do you know what, these ideas, this is what created Bitcoin. And this is where it came from. And so I was really grateful to kind of remember, and it really took me back. I had a bit of nostalgia. But there was like 1,500 people in the room, from all different walks of life.
Many different countries, yeah.
But I think not necessarily everyone was from the crypto space, but everyone was talking about the crypto space. And that really drove a lot of people here, and that is really cool. That was really exciting to see.
It is really cool.
When I gave my talk today, I had a lot more energy than the talks I gave the week before or the other places. So
I could tell
cool.
when you started speaking on the mic, you had quite a bit of energy. I wasn't sure if it was from Jeffrey. I'm sure it was part of it, but maybe I had the feeling too it was from your speech. And you're right. It's not just having 1,200 plus people here this year. I mean, there's been phenomenal growth in Acapulco since the first year, 4 years ago. But I don't think it's not just the anarchy side of it. Having the crypto day, I think, attracted a big portion of the attendees. Like you said, they are not necessarily on the anarchist side. Of course, a lot of them are, but just the crypto part of this drew a ton of people, I think. And I think next year it's going to be even more of a dramatic impact of crypto drawing people here. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so sorry I couldn't make it yesterday. I didn't get to see the previous 3 days. We were closing our token sale, which happened while I was here in Acapulco. But I was watching the debate. You sent me the link. I happened to send you a link, and I caught the end of the debate with Roger and core developers. And so my talk today was about scaling Bitcoin blockchain 2018 and beyond. The goal was not to talk anything about technicals. It wasn't big blocks, small blocks, Lightning Network, SegWit, not one of those that got mentioned. But actually it was about reminding people and reminding everybody here that this thing called Bitcoin, this thing called crypto, this thing called blockchain, whatever you want to call it, has to touch every single person in the world over the next, 1 year, 2 year, 5, 10 years, whatever. And we need to scale in order to touch every single person in the world.
Yeah.
Now, what I would like to see a return to is not Roger Ver slagging off Bitcoin Core in order to push Bitcoin Cash, and not Bitcoin Core slagging off Bitcoin Cash in order to push Bitcoin and their decisions. I think we need to return and remember that in order to scale to meet this demand, I don't know if you saw the Alex Jones show where Roger was on there recently. Oh, no. It was a shit show. If that is the perception that a new person to Bitcoin has, then we're going to slow down our growth significantly.
So was this Alex himself who?
Alex,
what was the...
a newbie to Bitcoin. He stayed out of the space. He invited Roger Ver onto the show. Roger Ver talking about at one hand it's the impossible talk. At one hand, you're trying to evangelize this new technology. At the same time, you're saying, and by the way, this got corrupted, and now you got to go into this one. Yeah. And then someone else rings up and says, yeah, but Roger, you're scamming the world to push people into your coin.
That went wrong when you opened the
And I just said, look, if I was a new person listening to that, I'm out, man. Yeah, I don't want. And if Bitcoin can be corrupted, like Roger was saying, then so can Bitcoin Cash. This is not the front that we need to show the world. And I would like, I don't question Roger's intentions. Roger, if you want to pursue cash, digital cash, then that's a worthy pursuit, and nobody should be, no one should be slagging you off for that goal. And if Core have an ultra conservative strategy that's building digital gold, we need digital gold. And guess what? Bitcoin's not going to be everything for everyone. That's what became clear this year.
Yeah,
it came clear that cash and gold, there's a reason why gold has never been cash, is because they're not the same thing. Bitcoin has become this global savings account, and we don't want to break with an ultra conservative strategy. And if Dash want to do cash, if Bitcoin Cash want to do cash, if Ethereum want to do cash, if anyone else wants to come along and do cash, then we should celebrate that. And this Bitcoin maximalism thing that I used to subscribe to, thinking that Bitcoin could be everything to everyone, is becoming extremely damaging and pushing other agendas, and slagging off Core and slagging off Bitcoin is putting a really, really bad perception first, because it's one thing trying to explain to people how Bitcoin can change the world. It's another thing trying to say Bitcoin can change the world, but by the way, it got corrupted and you need Bitcoin Cash. That is not going to work. And so, and we need to stop questioning each other's intentions. I love this community. I do love this community for, the fact that you can have chaos. Everyone's held to a higher standard. Whatever you do, everyone's going to question what you do. But I choose that the best way forward here is not questioning people's intentions, not saying, has Core been corrupted because development is, been funded? How you fund Core developers has been a problem right from the beginning. Originally, BitPay was hiring one of the Core developers. It's been a constant problem. How do you fund them?
Just they're largely,
yeah, it's been a constant problem. Now, I accept that there are certain degrees of centralization within this community that need to improve and that are improving. It's true that a certain number of the Core developers are employed by one company, and that's gone a bit more decentralized with Greg Maxwell leaving. I accept that there is centralization in mining. It was geographically focused in China, and there were large players that were controlling the manufacture of chip machinery and also, the consumers of electricity verifying the transactions. There's no doubt about it that the businesses all got together around the VC Barry Silbert and decided this is the future of Bitcoin. And for us, in order to do these massive amounts of transactions in Coinbase and blockchain.info and all these places, we need to reduce transaction fees. And here's how we're going to do it. And we're going to collude and put together an agreement and do that. And then the users did all get together and say, hold on, we're going to push back on that, and we're going to have this user activated soft fork. These are all centralized movement. But here's the one thing that Bitcoin has that nothing else has. Ethereum doesn't have it. Bitcoin Cash doesn't have it. Dash doesn't have it. None of them got their way, because the entire ecosystem is incentivized, decentralized, whereby if they do collude, the miners couldn't get their way, the businesses couldn't get their way. And the reason we've been debating for 3 years, and we reached this really productive phase in 2017, where the chain split and people said, well, if you want to go there, go that way. If you want to go there, go that way. And now we can just see. Let's stop arguing. Now we can see. What can big blocks do? I wish we had SegWit 2x in the end, because I'd love to see what SegWit plus big blocks could do. What can the ultra conservative strategy do? And let's just channel our energies in the projects that that excite us the most. And I would like, I just wanted to see this very unhealthy, bad perception of we're here. We got bigger enemies. We got bigger people that are out to get this industry down.
Outside the community rather than within.
Wall Street want to take over this industry. There's no doubt about it. They've recognized this shit isn't going away. This is not going anywhere. We now, they were talking about blockchain for 3 years. They didn't build anything with blockchain. What's the first product they launched? Bitcoin trading. There's a reason for that, because Bitcoin is the most significant and important application of blockchain. And there's a load of other things that are going to take different user cases that are extremely important to that. We got big enemies here. I would like to see more harmony. I would like to see people not necessarily questioning their intentions in very deliberate, manipulative ways in order to push their agenda. I'd like people to be pushing, hey, guess what? Low transaction fees, big blocks, creating digital cash is a worthy goal, but we need to be interoperable with digital gold anyway, because Bitcoin is the only thing that was created by somebody anonymous in a time when no one cared and doesn't need any person to push it. It's the only one that can be pushed on its own. Everything else needs a person, a face, some credibility to lend to it. And that's why those are different goals, different agendas, different things. And so, my talk today was not about how are we going to scale. The way we're going to scale is we need to accept that this technology is going to touch every piece of everything in the world. It's changing the world. ICOs, that you could call them scams, you can call them whatever you want, but they've created a self-funding mechanism whereby we no longer need to beg to banks, VCs, or anyone, and we can fund ourselves for the most stupid, crazy, scammiest, whatever idea, or something that might actually go and change the world. And so now we've got this self-funding mechanism. We've got high net worth investors all around the world that own lots of crypto wealth that want to spread that to whatever wacky idea they think will work. And so we've got everything we need to touch every person in the world right now. We just need to kind of get our shit together and accept that these different products, these different projects, they may not be trying to fulfill the same goal.
Yeah.
But we can't slag each other off in order to try and push this. We can't say, Core is corrupted. Maybe they are. Hey, you know what? But the system is decentralized enough to get over that, and just pursue digital cash, pursue digital gold, pursue these other user cases, pursue ICOs. This technology, there's enough space, there's enough wealth, there's enough going on in this space to really, really, we're at that critical phase right now. Everyone knows what we're doing, everyone's watching, and everyone's going to enter for a different reason. Maybe the financial system collapses. We need to be ready for that kind of scale. Maybe you're just trying to make a load of money. Maybe you're a fund manager that needs to hedge against the stock market crash, bond market crash, and everything that's coming through. Every single person, whether they believe in Bitcoin or not, is going to need Bitcoin. And there's only 21 million of these, and they're all fighting for them. And there's all these other user cases that are coming on and working on scaling. But we need to accept that the Bitcoin is that thing that we can't break. And everything else we can experiment with and try and create different user cases for. So that was kind of what my goal here, because, Roger did things for Bitcoin that no one knows about. He was the person buying it when no one would buy this shit. He was supporting the price, at times when no one would touch his stuff. And now all of a sudden everyone's questioning him as like some corrupt person. Now I understand if you're coming from that agenda, but just accept, I'm trying to accept that the intention of what I believe he's doing is he's trying to say that there is a way of achieving digital cash, and this is the agenda. We don't think, this development cycle that you've gone down isn't fulfilling what I originally signed up for. And then Roger on the other side, stop telling people that Bitcoin's been corrupted. It has not been corrupted. There might be, certain problems that can be improved. But if Bitcoin can be corrupted, hell, so can Bitcoin Cash. Yeah. And that's my message. And and the fact is that this is decentralized. This is the most decentralized thing we have. And Bitcoin has become the world reserve cryptocurrency for cryptocurrency, which means the more alternatives, the better the user case for world reserve cryptocurrency of cryptocurrency. while the financial system collapses, while central banks create their versions of blockchains, while central banks are waging war on retail banks with blockchains, people now have a choice, people now have an exit, and this thing is changing the world. And we need to accept that this is just the most exciting time to be alive in financial history, and we need to work together. We need to get back to understanding that the real enemies, the real people we need to be fighting against are the people that are going to invest significant chunks of money. The winner of Alex Jones's talk was banks that said, fuck Bitcoin, that shit looks crazy. One person's telling me to scam it. I'll just stick with fiat. I don't need any of this stuff, you know? And so, you know, that's kind of my appeal to the community right now, is that we have such a perfect opportunity to scale and touch every single person's life. And you know what, even if you don't listen to me or agree with me, if you think that the anarchy and it holds everyone to a higher standard, fine, continue on that path, because this is going to touch everyone. But I personally believe the message I try to get out, if we need to scale, we need to get our shit together, recognize that there's different user cases, and Bitcoin isn't everything to everyone, to the Bitcoin maximalists. And also the other projects, you don't need to kill Bitcoin for your project to succeed, because it ain't going nowhere. And it's the best we got for what it's achieving as the world reserve cryptocurrency for cryptocurrency. So sorry for you know, I'm getting quite passionate about this subject, because the excitement of what's here, and then watching these kind of debates where people are just really
the clear winner of that debate yesterday was every other altcoin in the space.
Yeah, I wish I could have been there, you know, to be a part of that, but. You know, let's just be grateful for what we got here. We're changing the financial world, the most largest entrenched interests. This tiny little experiment is actually captured the amount. When was the last time something had 7 billion people that know what it is? You know, I mean, maybe Facebook did that, maybe Google did that. I don't know. Maybe you go to some tribe in Uganda, they don't know what you know what Facebook is, but Bitcoin. Wherever I go, you know, people know this shit. This is exciting. This is our time. This is what we've been waiting for. This is what we've been working towards. You know, would you ever imagine that banks would create trading futures for Bitcoin? They had to do that, because they cannot ignore this stuff. The IPO market is being disrupted by ICOs. Now, there's shit tons of scams. There's shit tons of problems in that. But this is the first time in history that these entrenched, you know, Jeffery was talking about 1933. That's when these securities laws were written. Now the SEC, Senate, they're all here meeting, discussing, you know, my children are not going to invest in bonds. My children are not investing in stocks. They're in crypto. They don't want to touch bonds. You know, their first entry point is going to be crypto. This is disrupting everything, every financial market in the world. And I can't believe that's happening. In 2017, that accelerated. And in 2018, that's going to accelerate. 2020, you have Bitcoin halving. You have all this ultra innovation. You know, even at Bank to the Future, we used to know every investment deal in the industry. Every single one, we were on top of it. 30 applications a day for people looking for funding. For none of our team can keep up with that. You know, there's the amount of innovation.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
You know, I've had this I guess vision, if you will, or position that you know, there seems to be this, maybe one coin's going to win over another. That question's like, what's the next Bitcoin? And I firmly agree with you that, you know, Bitcoin is always there and it's going to remain there, and we need to prop it up as such, and get out of the scaling arguments, right? Because there's a lot of innovation, and I'm a bias when I say this, but there's a lot of innovation coming to the space. And so, you know, what's your thoughts on like true interoperability, of like cross-chain interoperability, and saying, you know what, it doesn't matter what coin you hold, we just want to move value in crypto, and we want to transact freely with people, versus, you know, I really have to be with this coin, or I really have to be with that coin.
One of the most dangerous things that could happen to our sector is if Bitcoin became everything to everyone and controlled everything, and then there was, you know, mass, you know. So the fact of the matter is, Bitcoin has made government fiat currencies more honest, because there's an exit from the financial system.
Yep.
You know, that's a fact now. If you choose, you have to accept volatility, which is a hard thing to do when you're trying to transact. You know, if anyone over the last month or two was trying to buy a property, you know, it cost you this amount or 60% less. Yeah. That's not good cash. That's why Tether was the winner from that. You know, Tether went from 1.5 billion to 2.2 billion because everyone didn't want fiat money. They wanted stability of fiat money, but they wanted to keep it in crypto to not create a taxable event.
Right.
And so therefore, even though everyone was criticizing Tether, it went from 1.5 billion to 2.2 billion because everyone needs stability if they've locking in some kind of wealth. And that's why governments, and this is interoperability, you know, it's not that fiat goes away, it's that crypto keeps fiat more honest because there's competition. They can't make, you know, if they want to make cash illegal, then everyone goes to crypto. If the central banks want to control, you know, if the central banks want to do all of the things that they're going to do in terms of automatic tax collection and switching off your bank account because you traveled to Syria or whatever, then you're going to have your choice and you're going to go over to crypto. It keeps those things more honest. The same thing needs to happen with Bitcoin. I have no doubt in my mind that the Bitcoin core developers are held to a higher standard as a result of the heat that they came under from Bitcoin Cash, from, you know, Rogers, what he was doing. And that is good for all of us. And so interoperability of these blockchains is how we keep this fully decentralized, is how this industry survives, is how we scale to touch the entire world. You know, and those two things haven't even started. Decentralized exchanges, interoperability between blockchains. You know, we've still got that all to come. That's not factored into the market cap yet.
No, yeah, and it's just they're just starting. You know, we're doing something to provide that as well on our side. But that's, you know, I think what I'd like to see is a bigger, much more stronger bridge from fiat to cryptocurrencies globally. So it's more people can get in faster and easier, and then they can make the decision on their own in what blockchain or DApp or ecosystem, whatever they want to transact or be a part of, and then turn that back around and then give that cryptocurrency back to the world by transacting, going and buying milk with Bitcoin, or maybe you want to go buy milk with Redcoin, right? Just something obscure like that. But the value should be able to be interoperable and exchangeable at the time of transaction, no matter what you hold. And so that we build this bridge and get lots of people into the space, and then now they're in crypto, and that's when the fiat world begins to kind of distance itself, right? So maybe if we get 100 million, 500 million, 2 billion people all holding crypto, you know, once employers start paying you in cryptocurrency, once things like this happen,
my employer
that's when
does.
huge amounts of movement is going to happen in the space. Like once an employer says, hey, we pay in Bitcoin only, and I mean, you think everyone gets paid in fiat. So once you start paying them in crypto, they start transacting in crypto.
Well, there's a service I came across called, I think it's called Revolt, where what you do is you tell your employer, pay me to this bank account, and then you actually receive it in crypto, which is what the service does. Right? So you
Bitwage does the same thing.
Bitwage is kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like Uphold, but the other way around.
Right.
Yeah. We were one of the investors in Bitwage.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Well, and definitely, like, kind of addressing a point you made is that there's room for plenty of crypto here, and like you said, the Bitcoin maximalism, I think, is, if not dead, it's going to die, because it's increasingly clear that back in the day, 5 years ago, say, or 3 years ago, even, you could claim that it was Bitcoin and only Bitcoin, but you know, nowadays, there's room for all sorts of different crypto to do different things. And you know, when Bitcoin Cash came along, I'm still pro Bitcoin Cash. And for a little bit, I was anti-Bitcoin, or at least I don't want to put it that way. Maybe I thought Bitcoin was dead. I've actually come to the opinion that there's room for both. There's a good chance. I don't want to say there's a 100% chance, but I think there's a very, very good chance Bitcoin's going to stick around, because much like you were saying, there's the perception in the general public and even in the crypto space that it's the crypto, it's the original crypto. It's still by far the most secure crypto. And even though it's lost some market share as far as capitalization, having the highest market cap means it's deep and liquid. So if you want to transfer large amounts of money in Bitcoin, unlike any other crypto, it won't affect the market price of Bitcoin as much as it would affect the market price of, say, Bitcoin Cash.
Right.
So that's actually a huge thing. So, but like you said, that means it's more of a Bitcoin Gold than a Bitcoin for everybody. Now, again, with developments like Lightning Network or other things, Bitcoin could become Bitcoin for everybody. But for the time being, it's Bitcoin Gold, and it really does serve that purpose. And like I said yesterday during the debate, if you still compare Bitcoin to the legacy banking system, it's still superior, at least, again, for gold, if you will. Because if you want to send $1 million in Bitcoin around the world to somebody, you can do it directly peer-to-peer. Maybe you pay $100, or now it's lower fees. Maybe you pay $50. That's way cheaper.
Right, and there's no one knocking on your door. You know, there's no list. There's no approval process.
Union, you have to fill out
there's
forms,
nothing. You just send it, and that's
and with you just add a little more to the fee, and you can get it done within a few minutes or hours. And you can't do that in the legacy banking system with a lot of money. So Bitcoin really has plenty of advantages still. And public perception of Bitcoin as the crypto is also huge, because public perception can make the difference in the success or failure of any crypto or any project. So, and a friend of mine brought this up to me when I was watching the Super Bowl, and I realized he was so right that, like, psychology is still important too about the perception of Bitcoin. And like Simon was saying too, I realized that it's not about Bitcoin Core versus Bitcoin Cash, say, because in the end, if you think about it, they do serve different purposes. Again, Bitcoin Gold and then Bitcoin Cash, gold versus cash, they aren't necessarily at odds with each other.
In fact, though, I would argue that cash and gold can't be together. I would argue that Bitcoin becoming a global savings account that encourages savings over taking on debt like fiat, because the value goes down. So with fiat, the right strategy is to take on debt. With Bitcoin, the right strategy is to spend your shit money and keep your good money.
Yeah.
And that's why it is a global savings account. I recognize and I appreciate the utility of it is very important. But the utility as a global store of value, and then the different things that you can do with Lightning Network and SegWit and all these things that will come out, I believe will support it. But I would argue that good cash is not an investment. You don't invest in dollars, you spend dollars. Mm-hmm. You want your rent to be the same all year, right? So if you do create digital cash, then if it goes up in value and it becomes a good investment, you'll stop spending that cash naturally, because you'll realize we're all Bitcoin pizza guy. And so naturally, no one wants to be Bitcoin pizza guy. We've all been Bitcoin pizza guy. We've all spent Bitcoin, and we all look back and say, holy shit, that pizza cost me, $100 million or something. And that's the reality of a fixed class digital, a fixed supply digital scarce good. And so if Bitcoin Cash is a fixed supply digital scarce good and actually achieves its goal, then the price will keep going up and people will stop spending it, because people don't want to spend it. So it's why we have fiat currencies. Fiat currencies say, you can take the anarchist view, or you can take the normal, the view of someone that believes in governments.
Reality.
Either governments are using fiat in order to control everything, do everything, and fine, I subscribe to some of that. But also, governments have a goal to try and, create maximum employment in their thing and have stable currencies and circulate money so that it spends around the economy. And in order to have that, you have to have stable pricing, because with volatility, you have Zimbabwe. Okay, that's why crypto's backed by fiat. They have counterparty risk problems. Someone's got to put the money in the bank, and then whoever that is, whether it's Tether or whatever, can get attacked by the FBI, can ask to be shut down by the Taiwanese government or whatever. But you won't get stable fixed supply. So, if you want Bitcoin Cash, you need no fixed supply. You need to actually change it. You need inflation built in to create global stability, whatever that is. Otherwise you're going to have volatility, and volatility encourages savings if it's got the same economics as Bitcoin. So I would argue that anyone trying to achieve the goal of cash will end up becoming digital gold if they achieve their goal, unless they have a variable money supply. And then when you have variable money supply, you have to have central planning, and who's qualified to do that central planning. However, if you have a global savings account that's interoperable with different blockchains that allow you to spend your Bitcoin more cheaply, or create a smart contract on a different blockchain, or do a Lightning channel, or do 67,000 transactions per second on EOS, or whatever it is, then that's how we're going to scale. That's how we're going to take on the world. That's how we're going to win. That's how this is going to change. And I have no doubt it's going to happen. It's just a question of how fast is it that we want to get there.
I don't know what economist said this, but it was a great point on cryptocurrencies. You know, we use, you know, the suffix of this phrase is currency, right? And so in our minds, it's something you can spend or whatever. And they use the word and perception, the psychology of this with, you know, the 95% of the people out in the world that don't actually hold Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency, and that was the word money. And until everyone else can just see it as money, it's going to be, you know, we have to create all the infrastructure we're just talking about, like those chains and the interoperability, and not fighting one coin versus another and making it spendable. So really, all you want to be able to do is move value for value. Say any place, person, or thing, you know, for whatever in whatever medium that you want to exchange it at. And I think once we get to that place, that's when, in my you know, humble opinion, that's when the wave hits, man. That's whatever curve of adoption. Once these things are worked out, that's when the curve hits. Because when I can just go and buy anything I want with whatever crypto I'm holding, and it doesn't matter, I can just be a human and transact with my economy that's around me, and I'm not really held back, or I'm not scratching my head. It's like, should I spend this coin today or that coin? It just shouldn't matter. It's like I'm just going to spend this today.
Yeah.
Well, if you look back at history too, like particularly in the 19th century, you know, you had circulating banknotes that were backed by gold, and the existence of banknotes were for ease of use. But there's a comparison to Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, because Bitcoin Cash has ease of use relative to Bitcoin Core, but Bitcoin Core has that gold quality because of the high security that no one else has, which isn't just about the high security for cryptocurrency transactions. It's about the high security for using the blockchain of Bitcoin itself for data, you know, for data entry on the ledger, right?
Yeah.
So it's sometimes we forget that Bitcoin is more than just a currency. It's also that blockchain. So the fact that it's that most secure blockchain also adds to its value. So what I'm saying is, back in the, you know, the early days when you had circulating banknotes, that didn't drive out the use of gold as a money. It may have reduced or mostly eliminated the circulation of gold as a money, but that didn't mean that people didn't keep it as a store of value on which they base the value of the circulating banknotes. So it'll be the same thing with Bitcoin Cash. Or in like manner, there was a time when it was silver and gold, and partly due to market forces, partly due to government decrees, you had people would just spend the silver only, and they would hoard the gold. They call it Gresham's Law.
Yeah.
And so, but that didn't mean that, again, that didn't mean that the gold just, oh, no one used it anymore, no one valued it. It was quite the opposite.
Right.
So there's.
I was going to say there's what Simon was talking about in his talk about, there's a problem with having any other coin than Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has no leader, has no sender, etc., and that's its benefit, right? The downside to that and the plus side to having a leader is that there can be a declaration about what it is, right? Like Dash Digital Cash. Once that declaration is there, it's like starting a business. You know what market you're serving. The challenge with Bitcoin is there's no consensus as to what it is. And you're campaigning for digital gold. I agree with you there. The challenge with getting everyone to agree on that and then pushing development in that direction is the challenge, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, no one needed to agree. You just need to put your whole car cash into Bitcoin and realize what a great savings account that was. You know, and that's why Bitcoin dominance is a really bullshit statistic, by the way. It's like, say, I haven't looked at stocks for ages, but when I was working in the stock market, we had the FTSE 100 in UK, and Vodafone was the most dominant stock within the FTSE 100.
Right.
Now, what happened with the FTSE 100 is it always stayed as 100 for that very same reason, because people were talking about Vodafone dominance within FTSE 100. It didn't go to the FTSE 250 and the FTSE 350 and the FTSE 450 and expand and expand and expand. And in the case of crypto, you've got Bitcoin, which was just a phenomenal savings account. Let's just face it. if you held, you might have done better by speculating on Ethereum. You wouldn't have had the same, you would have got higher returns, but not risk adjusted. You might have put it all in ICOs and got huge bumps, and maybe you lost it all, but you need to be professional traders to actually figure out, whether you did that or not. It was a bull market. Everyone made money. Everyone got rich. But saying Bitcoin dominance, because Bitcoin dominance doesn't say, here's the 100 largest coins. It says, here's Bitcoin compared to 20 coins. Oh, now 100 coins. Oh, now 500 coins. Oh, now 1,000 coins. Now 5,000 coins. It's going to go down and down and down and down and down and down because you're increasing the number of coins that is competing with it. And at the same time, there was shit tons of pump and dumps, shit tons of scams. You add all those as well, add it all in, and then you're going to get a decrease in Bitcoin dominance. But look at the reality, the cold hard reality. How did Bitcoin do as digital gold? Well, if you held your money in gold, you had an extremely safe asset class, and your value was probably the same as when you started. If you held your money in Bitcoin, you accumulated wealth. You accumulated serious wealth, higher than any other asset class in the world. You accumulated, there's a reason why there's so much money in our industry right now, because people took Bitcoin and some of them put it in Ethereum, and those two things drove an incredible amount of wealth in this industry that was then rediverted into ICOs that then created more wealth and more perception, and then that drove loads and loads of more people in until eventually the regulators needed to realize if we continue on this path we were on in 2017, the entire market was about to implode. I'm talking traditional market. People were about to do an ICO in order to buy Google stock, in order to buy it out, in order to gain control and mix it with Tor or something like that. If you can do an ICO to raise funding from anyone for anything in any amount, and the numbers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, that was going to consume everything. That was going to take out every part of government control. That was going to take out every part of bank power. And if that path continued, they were about to lose all of that. Of course, they're going to regulate it. Of course, they're going to call these things securities. This is the only way that they can get that. Of course, the banks are going to have, are going to get in on this business, because no millennial, no one young, no one, under the age of, what's the gold guy? Peter Schiff. Yeah, no one under the age of Peter Schiff buys gold stocks or bonds anymore. They might buy some gold, but the entry point is crypto. It's boring as shit to them. It's just something they're not going to do anymore. We're in a world of two-tiered markets, a regulated market and a fully decentralized peer-to-peer market. Both are booming. If you need to get your fiat into crypto, then you need to do KYC, you need to take counterparty risk, you need to go through a hedge fund, you need to do something stupid like give your money to a traditional financial institution that charges a load of fees and adds a load of counterparty risk for the benefit of them storing it for you. Or people are going to realize one step at a time that's a stupid plan, a bad idea, they're going to lose their money, they're going to get goxed, and then they're going to, in the end of it, they're either going to disappear and say that was all a scam, or they're going to go and get a Trezor or a Ledger and a hardware wallet, and they're going to learn that they can own their own money, spend their own money, and the monetary policy of some of these things is transparent, and you can judge the monetary policy up front, as opposed to it being a moving target because they're trying to do something that suits their employment goals or country's goals or corruption or whatever you want to call it. And so it's going to be a movement from this to this. It's just when you first start, you need to sign up with Coinbase. You're not going to go straight to learning what a hardware wallet is and learning personal security. Everyone I know, they use the same password for their email and everything else. Mm-hmm. These people can't own crypto yet. They need password managers. They need 2FA. They need to stop using SMS where you can call the phone operator and turn off someone's 2FA. Personal security needs to be learned. So in the transition, everyone's going to go through the regulated route. They're going to take their fiat, and then they're going to eventually get GOX because counterparty risk doesn't exist in this own your own, thing. And then they're going to start owning their own thing. Then we're going to have personal sovereignty. And we talked about earlier, the routes in. You're either going to do it the KYC route, and this is why mining is important, because mining allows you to take fiat money, invest it in machinery, and get Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency out. That is extremely important. Maybe a shit investment, compared to actually buying the crypto, but fiat to buy machinery, machinery to crypto, and then crypto to whatever you want. Virgin coins, at that point. That's important. That's why mining is a really important part of it. And that's why Goldman Sachs are now paying, huge premiums in order to buy virgin coins from Jihan Wu and all the other miners, because they're virgin coins and they got the traceability behind that. Now, the next argument, once we get over this scaling debate, that we recognize we've got these different chains. You experiment with that, you experiment with that, you experiment with that. We need more fungibility, and that was the end, I think, the talk where Roger then came out and said, hey, what? We can then, Core, you might come up with the best way to create fungibility, anonymity, privacy. I'll be back on your side at that point. That's where we need to get. That's the next big battle. Every government, every agency in the world and every company's Bitfury is developing technology right now for the governments in order to trace and track everything. And, that could end up, that's a path we got to focus on. We got to get back to what this conference was about in 2011. Privacy, exit from financial system. Not pump and dumps and arguing about, I got to kill your coin in order to make my coin so I can get richer. Let's return back to that. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, well said. Well, let's, it's been a fun discussion. Let's switch gears, though. I do want to address your ICO, actually.
My pump and dump scheme.
No, I didn't say that. Don't.
Yeah. He
Don't
did
spread
before
that
you got
perception
here.
around.
He said it before you got here. No,
shh! I told you not to tell him. No, I'm just kidding. Well, and clarify something for me. Are you still doing Bank to the Future?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So Bank to the Future has been through a really interesting path. Look, we were doing ICOs before ICOs existed. They weren't ICOs. They weren't tokenized. They were equity.
By the way, I found your A. It's on his hat.
You found my A?
It's on his hat.
All right. There it is. Acapulco.
I've got a question about Bank to the Future, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I have an account, and I noticed that you guys started doing the KYC stuff recently.
We've always done KYC. We're a regulated institution. We have to do that. Are you a U.S. citizen? Yeah. So U.S. So we own we're a shareholder in a U.S. broker dealer, and in order to now the SEC is getting really hot on this. All of our U.S. customers have to go through our U.S. broker dealer, and therefore we had to re-sign up with our U.S. broker dealer for the protection of this. Yeah. Yeah. So we've always done KYC as a securities business. We've always had to, but so yeah, that was what's happened there. But yeah, well, with Bank to the Future, as I said, we were doing ICOs before ICOs were around with equity in a regulated environment. We did extremely well from our investments in crypto. So we no longer needed to create a scalable tech startup and sell it to VCs. So we decided to dedicate the whole platform and all our licenses that we spent years trying to acquire to supporting the Bitcoin and blockchain industry. So we got equity in companies that you just can't get equity from anymore. We got equity in Bitfinex, Bitstamp, Kraken, BitPay, BitPayzer, UnoCoin, Bitso, over 100 different of the most valuable companies in the industry.
Wow.
And you can't find companies that will sell equity anymore because
and all of that without an A.
And all of that without an A. Yeah. But the bank, the A still redirects. We've got both URLs. So,
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, can you clarify why there's no A? So people will know what the difference is between you and an actual bank.
Owns the domain banktothefuture.com. I wrote the book, Bank to the Future with an A. And in order to create a global online investment platform, the IMF has regulatory things that they impose on every other regulator, stating that you can only have a bank in your name if you are a bank. What does a bank mean? Well, that definition has kind of changed over time, but most people believe that a bank has FDIC insurance in the case of the US, and therefore, if you have deposits with that institution, there is some government or insurance scheme to try and bail it out if all goes wrong. Forget the fact that they're insolvent and they don't have those and they're running up Ponzi schemes with that anyway, but they're backed by a government Ponzi scheme. Okay.
Right.
So the word bank becomes an important thing because even though consumers probably don't know or know this, so the IMF will go down on any regulator. You've got to get permission to use the word bank. So we also, at first, we didn't want to do that. The Isle of Man government gave us the word bank to the future, and then they got actually attacked by the Bank of England saying that we're going to take away all your GBP deposits for your country.
Wow.
And they also got attacked by the IMF saying you can't allow a company to have bank in their name.
That's how the states are.
Yeah.
So,
you know,
you have to have a proper license to have a bank.
So we've taken a branding strategy over it now. We're not a bank. Originally, when we tried to, you know, if you read my original book, Bank to the Future, I was all about building a bank, a non-fractional reserve bank. It turned out Bitcoin created it, so we just jumped on that bandwagon. They created something that we could never create. In order to have a global scalable business, we had to play by regulators' rules because, you know, we're using this technology. We're in that transition intersection world. So we took the A out of our name, and now, you know, that's it. We're playing by the rules, but now we're not a bank. I quite like it now.
Isn't one of your books called "How the Bank Stole My A"?
Well, my final book.
Okay.
Once crypto takes the world, and we're all recognized for our contribution to society for what we created here at the World Crypto Show. Then my final book, I've been meaning to write a book for ages. The book was written in 2011. Can you imagine how much Bitcoin's changed since then? I think it was the first published book that included Bitcoin. I haven't seen another one.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I mean, 2011 we were writing that. I went to the first conference, and that provided a lot of content for that. But yeah, the final book I want to write, and I actually did give you the exclusive. It was on the World Crypto Show. The Crypto Show, sorry.
Yeah.
The Crypto Show.
I like the World Crypto Show, though.
No, that's it's the World Crypto Network.
Show.
Yeah, the Bank Stole My A is the final title.
Nice.
Well, we've broadcast from Colombia, London, Acapulco.
Well, we have worldwide listenership.
Yeah.
So
You are the World Crypto Show.
We are number one in Jakarta.
in an apartment
Jakarta,
complex in
Indonesia,
Jakarta.
for some reason. We don't know why, but
Okay.
Well, and that's excellent. You've been an innovator in the field, like you said, doing the first ICOs, though not technically tokenized.
No, they're not tokenized.
And it's been very successful. Yeah. And so, tell us more about.
It's just retarded how. Okay, if you remove this letter, you're now no longer harm to the public.
I know.
What the fuck is that?
Especially when you still pronounce it bank, and so.
Did you guys see what happened to Arise Bank? Which was I don't know if they were based in the U.S., but they used the name Arise Bank. They launched an ICO. I think their initial coin price was like $150, and they had TM on absolutely everything on their website, all the way down. It's like everything was a trademark, and so they were purporting themselves like an actual bank in the States, and so they got immediate cease and desist and return your funds, and you know you're in the penalty box. So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to come back out or what, but I think they said they raised $600 million. They were goal was $1 billion. Who knows what actually happened? At least it was a real website. It didn't say like penis on it, like whatever that other scam was that we saw a couple of weeks ago. But they used the word bank, and they purported themselves as a bank. Even they said we're a decentralized bank. The same problem. If you use the word bank, you better carry the license, or the governments are going to come after you.
This is the bit that made me laugh about ICOs because the whole time from the first one I was saying these are securities. These are going to be securities. This is extremely disruptive, and I'll invest in these things because I hope you win. But if not, we're here with the licenses when they need them, and we're here that someone knows what it means to be a Bitcoiner and has been around. And so that's why Bank to the Future finds itself at this interesting turning point, because we got disrupted by tokens, but we were investing in them all. So we don't mind the disruption, whichever way it happens. It turned out that the companies don't want to offer equity anymore. It's too valuable. They give away tokens. And no one wanted to buy equity anymore because it's not liquid. So we reached this turning point where that then became larger than stock markets and all sorts of stuff.
Wow.
This market, tokens consumed everything, and they were about to consume everything. We had people in the scams as well. We had people in China. Someone did an ICO for Bank to the Future, and it wasn't us.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
That's
funny. I've got all screenshots of like 16 different ICOs where I was the advisor in Jakarta and China, and I had nothing to do with any of them
before. Yeah,
none of them. The scams were getting insane. There's no doubt that that's why the exchanges got shut down in China, because the scams were getting insane.
Well, imitation is a serious form of flattery, right? So, I mean, not that it's a good thing ultimately, but at least it shows that you're doing something right. If people want to pretend they're you, Yeah. Well, tell us more about the ICO. So, has it already been issued? Is it going to be issued?
Yeah, so we decided that we do our own token. We want to create a second. We want to take the best of what we learned from the token market and combine it with the best of what we know from equity. Simple thing. We want to create a securities exchange whereby you can tokenize real assets, equity, use our suite of licenses to do that in a compliant way, and therefore investors can invest in that in a way where they're not going to get shut down, because we're doing the correct registrations, we're doing the correct filing, and we're doing everything by the rules that we have to play by as a securities business, as a broker-dealer, as an ATS registered with the SEC and FINRA.
Is this going to include cryptocurrencies that would be deemed securities as well?
We will probably, so our journey is that we were doing equity as we've always done everything as securities.
Yeah.
So any investment that was made through our platform was done as a security, compliant with securities laws as best we could.
But most of those don't offer tokens though, right? They're
No, they were actual equity, but then the way that we structured it is we own the equity and we could tokenize that equity.
Gotcha.
So if people want to exchange their equity for a token that's backed by the equity, then we can create a marketplace and create the liquidity.
All these other companies.
We haven't fully decided exactly what we want to do, because we don't want to do it without the companies opting.
That's
for
like
this.
the biggest ETF in crypto ever. That would be amazing. I'm buying in.
But no, that wasn't the ICO that we did. The ICO, the token sale that we had to do. So we're creating this, and then everyone, all the companies got really jealous of, someone like blockchain.info could only raise like 30 million because they were still begging VCs. And yet, like Bancor comes along with an idea and raises 150 million in a few seconds for something that's, no one knows what it is or whether it's going to work. And so the large companies were getting really jealous. They wanted to do the ICOs, but they had brands, reputations, a lot to lose.
Right.
That they couldn't be as risque with securities laws as some of these things were. So we believe that the multi-trillion-dollar market here, the disruption is going to come in taking traditional assets, using tokens. Blockchain Capital did the first VC fund that way, and we're set up to be able to do that. So we want to create a securities exchange. Now, here's our biggest problem. We had two big problems at Bank to the Future that we couldn't solve. One, the deal flow went through the roof. We were getting 30 applications a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we just couldn't handle that. And not only that, originally we were in fintech and Bitcoin and blockchain. We knew everyone in the industry. We understood the industry. All of a sudden, every mother and their son's getting into building blockchains in verticals like biotech and things we just don't know how to analyze.
Right.
So we needed to put some kind of process of involving the crowd and involving people in this process. So essentially, it was a coin to incentivize people with helping perform due diligence. We're creating some kind of more decentralized process for listing on Bank to the Future, still following all the securities laws that we know that we need to follow, but involving token holders and rewarding them for that. And then we worked with Smith & Crown to put together the token economics. And the one thing we're very proud of, our pre-sale sold out in 15 hours, and the public sale sold out in 2 minutes and 17 seconds.
Wow. And how much did y'all raise?
33 million, and we stopped it there.
Nice.
Our support ticket was through the roof. I cannot believe, I still remember the days in 2010 of hustling, meeting after meeting, trying to get someone to put $250,000 into this thing. And now it's just like everyone around the world is trying to chuck millions
all over
into,
themselves to give you
which is
money,
just
basically.
insane, which is just such an incredible change in the world.
When you got a solid platform, you have a solid upside. So,
sure.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a testament to, what you're doing.
Here's the thing I'm proud of most, and this is what the standard that I'd like tokens to kind of get to. I don't know how we're going to get there. Every single person whether it was an institutional investor or a bank to the future accredited investor or a bank to the future member from whatever country they were from, or the public sale, everyone paid the exact same price. There was no bonuses, no discounts, no backhand deals.
Very democratic.
And because this is where all the SEC stuff's going to happen, this is where the regulators are going to clamp down. The VCs are forcing the tokens to give them 100% discount, launch a pump and dump scheme. They're not incentivized for the price to go up. They can sell at 100% discount to the retail, and the retail is paying the full price to the VC.
Still walk off. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in the same thing, where our ICO is the same thing. There is no discounts, bounties, and backhand deals. What you see is what you get. It's the price for everyone the same. And we spend a lot of time looking at the economics of that. So I applaud you on that, and I hope that they all do this.
Yeah. It's hard to do, though, because the big money will hustle you for discounts. And we had to say no to all that money. They did it anyway in the end, because if you got a good deal, you got a good deal. But, you know, where this seems to be moving is the big discounts seems to be the ones to avoid now.
Yeah, I think like a 20% or less on a SAF is about, I wouldn't call it industry standard or traditional, because nothing is standard or traditional right now. But, you know, we are entertaining a 20% discount SAF just for VCs. But there's a lockup period as well. So it's not like you can just dump them as soon as you get them. We want the retail markets to open up and then transact. And, you know, on ours, you get your tokens the moment you purchase them. They're actively usable and consumable in that moment. And I think this is where the industry should go. A PDF and an idea and raising 130 million, and we still don't know a year and a half later what it really is and if it does anything it says it's going to do, versus like, hey, here's a product, here's a token, get into crypto economics right now.
But what it did prove, and it proved to the world, that if you can create liquidity in these things, there's a lot of money that wants to enter this. And there's a lot of people that want to enter this that would not have entered traditional markets. And the the Senate hearing, if you listen to them, my children are not going to buy bonds. My children are not going to buy stocks. They're buying crypto, and they ain't going to buy anything else. The cat's out of the bag. This changes everything, you know. And people ask me, are ICO scams? I say, yeah. Are ICOs going to change the world? Yeah. Are ICOs a new way of raising funding for something that never would have got funded before, like Ethereum? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, are ICOs ways for extremely unqualified people that have no idea of what to do with 100 million to burn a load of money and buy Lambos? Yeah. It's buyer beware. It's all of the above, but it's here. It ain't going away. And, you know, this is our new financial paradigm. And this is what people just need to get used to. And everyone's got to navigate that. Governments don't know what to do with that. Regulators don't know what to do with that. You know, they're like, well, we've got jurisdiction over this, but we don't have jurisdiction over that. This institution is in charge of tax. That one's in charge of commodities. This one's in charge of stocks. Well, Bitcoin's all of the above. And this one's a technology protocol. You know, this is disruption at the highest level. And it's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Not just disruption in currency, disruption in equity and asset markets, and that's going to revolutionize everything in finance. Well, we should probably wrap things up, but where do you go from here then after this very successful ICO?
Well, now we get to what we've always been doing, which is building, adapting to what the market throws at us. We try to forecast the market. I could not have predicted that Bitcoin would have hard forked into 3-4 different versions. But as this market there's never a boring day, there's never a dull day, and there's never a moment where there's nothing new to learn. So, you know, whatever I tell you right now, what we're going to do over the next year, I can tell you the market's going to change that, and we're here to adjust to the market. We're here to adjust to what this market throws us. And again, back to our original vision, the original thing I wrote about in that book, I believe the future of finance is very different from the past. And thankfully, Bitcoin came along and created something that nobody owns, that nobody controls, that is actually facilitating the world's innovation into this. And that's just, you know, we'll go where the market takes us. The market is moving fast and swift. And, you know, we have to adjust to that environment. But, you know, we're here to stay. We've been here for a long time. And the strategy just might need to change. But yeah, we're looking at launching the securities token market. Really excited about that.
Awesome. And last question, are you going to be able to take on more applications as a result of this new funding?
So we're going to build an actual platform whereby our community of token holders are rewarded for actually voting on what they think should be on Bank to the Future.
Okay, that's interesting.
And they can actually perform due diligence and get rewarded for good work. We are a centralized platform. We're not fully decentralized, but we're one step at a time incorporating different bits of decentralized into us. But I still maintain that decentralization doesn't solve everything. Sometimes centralization is extremely efficient, fast, and a better way of doing things. But the bits that do help with decentralization, we'll look to adopt those and improve, and we're always open to feedback. And now, we've got all these token holders, and they hold you very accountable. They're an interesting bunch of people, ultra skeptical, and that keeps you honest.
Right.
Are you guys still looking for companies that may offer points?
We're open to applications. I mean, we do, in our centralized model, we have a 95% rejection rate. Only 5% of the deals got on. But now we're looking to adjust to this more decentralized model, one step at a time. And we'll see where that takes us. It might be a failed experiment. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, hopefully not. I think it'll be pretty successful, I think. So, well, awesome. Well, Simon Dixon, Bank to the Future. They're very successful ICO. I like this voting idea and not just voting idea, but incentivizing your token holders to do due diligence and rewarding them for such. That's a pretty cool part of this concept. So I think you're going to continue to innovate and continue to be very successful. So thanks, Simon. Appreciate it as always. And we'll have you back on in the Bank to the Future. I was trying to make a pun. In the near future.
In the near future.
The what? The bunk.
So is that the currency symbol? Did you have to drop the A too?
No, it's BF tokens. So we're BF is Bank Future.
BS tokens.
BF token.
Sorry, my mind went.
BFT is the ticker.
BFT.
Yeah, BNK is taken. I'm sure BNK got a huge pump out of this. But
but if you called it bank coin and kept the A in there, someone would probably come after
it's a bit like it's hilarious. Sorry if we've got to go, but BitConnect when Bitcoin Cash launches BCC, that's when the huge BitConnect Ponzi scheme started to reach record highs. And there's danger in these tickers. I'm sure BNK is getting a huge pump out of BF token launching. But BitConnect, that was really hyper accelerated when Bitcoin Cash had the ticker BCC, and then it kind of changed to BCH, and now what is it? I'm not sure.
All right. Well, excellent interview as always with Simon. Like I said, we'll have you on in the near future, and congratulations once again.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right. We'll see y'all at the next interview, guys.